When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can share the thrill with friends using our exclusive Bet Share feature.
Welcome back to the TwinSpires Jury, and happy 4th of July, as well as happy 50th episode of The Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson, joined by James Scully, and Kevin Kerstein's filling in for Darren Zacali this week. It looks like you're on a tropical island, but you're actually at Ellis Park today, Kevin, so welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know this is probably not the backdrop fans are used to with Darren in the background, but live on site here at Ellis Park, it's opening day, and glad to be joining you all for the 50th episode of The Jury.
Very happy to have you. And before we jump in, I also wanted to give James some congrats. He won week 2 of our fantasy handicapping contest. It was second in our first week and improved to first place. So congratulations.
Yeah, we're just going week by week on it. So I'm a little upset after this fast start that we're not keeping a grand total going. But yeah, got off to a good start. We'll see if I can carry the momentum forward.
All right, and Kevin, I'll let you start things off as our special guest. We're going to talk Ellis Park today, Horseshoe Indy, and some other big stakes races. But I think you're starting off with Ellis Park as your best bet. So tell me about your best bet of the week.
Yeah, so, with opening week at Ellis Park, we're obviously, very excited for racing to return down here in Henderson. And there's some great cards. We're midway through the card already today, getting ready for the Dade Park Dash next. Unfortunately, off the grass today, and sort of saw those maintenance issues that are happening right now at Ellis Park, where unfortunately fans are not able to attend the races at Ellis Park. We're undergoing an unexpected water main issue, and hopefully that'll be fixed for the remainder of opening week. But yeah, Saturday's card is obviously the highlight of the Ellis Park week. I'm really looking forward to watching Tatanka in race number 6 at Ellis Park. This is a horse you see the square price on the morning line at 5-1, owned and trained by Mike Maker, and dangling in for that optional $50,000 claiming tag. And the key with this horse is I'm seeing lone speed in this race. And so, whereas you have some horses that have shown some form, that are in just some okay form, Tatanka, I think, could be a very much of a factor. Lone speed, Martin Schwann getting in the irons. Not going to get a glimpse of how the turf course is playing because we're off the turf today. We'll have to see if things tomorrow. But, sort of the way that you want to be placed on this Ellis Park turf course is towards the front. And this horse has a big advantage at a very solid price on the morning line. So Tatanka is going to be my best bet of the weekend, Saturday, race 6 down here at Ellis Park.
I'm curious, Kevin, how do you go about your handicapping strategy? I don't normally ask our guests this, but I did hear that you used to sit on this fancy chair and do some handicapping. At least that was what Adam Spradling told me. Do you still sit in a fancy chair and do your...
Oh gosh, I know what he was referring to. Yeah, I used to, during COVID, when we were sort of shut out from the office, I took my recliner. I ended up putting it on the front porch one day and said, this is how I'm doing my handicapping, is out here on the front porch. But I think this backdrop here at Ellis Park is much better than that was. But back to your original question, in this race specifically, I was just looking for some value, and this horse has that value, I believe, with a big advantage on the pace. So if we're able to see Tatanka get loose, I think we're going to get rewarded at the windows when 7-5 favorite Noise is off. Does show some okay form, but maybe this horse will be able to get a jump on him. And that's sort of what I looked for in this race to be my best bet of the weekend.
I like your reasoning. James, I'll turn it over to you. What's your best bet?
My best bet is going to be number 4, War Campaign, and Saturday's Michael G. Schaefer Memorial Stakes at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. Now, this is a 5-year-old horse who has always been a hard trier. He's won or placed in 13 of his 19 starts, but he's also a horse that, he was versatile, but I think Phil Simms has raced him last year. He ran him on turf. He ran him on synthetics. He ran him at a different distance every single start. And War Campaign really started to come on over the winter in my mind. He really took, a big step forward after competing at Churchill last fall. He ran in the Tinsel Stakes in mid-December and won that race convincingly. Got 105 Brisnet speed rating, beat a couple horses in speed bias who just won like a States quality allowance at Churchill, and truly strong quality who has won two stakes since that race. Beat a nice field in there. War Campaign went off that race. He ran second to First Mission in the Essex, and then he came to Keeneland here, and you can see him down on the inside. He had a big shot in mid-stretch or even an upper stretch here. Now, ultimately, Kings Barnes proves too much for him, but he winds up finishing a clear second in a really quality effort. Kingsbarn came off this race, ran second in the Pimlico Special, and then won the Grade 1 Stephen Foster. So after running against First Mission, running second to First Mission, second to Kingsbarns, he goes off the 7-1 third choice in the Blame. Now, he didn't fire his best effort that day against Highland Falls and Cagliostro and a bunch of horses that are way better than anybody in this Schaefer field. But I like the way that War Campaign has come back with two fast works since that race. I think he's really sneaky in the fact he hasn't been winning, but he's been running really good races against strong competition. And I look for him to, finally get over the hump in a sense and earn another stakes win, his first stakes win this year in the Michael Schaefer Memorial.
Definitely a tough race, and a few in that field that I think are cross-centered elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely Trademark. You've got the last two winners of the race in Trademark and Mr. Wireless. And even last year's runner-up, five-star General, is in the field. So a lot of horses that have been running in this race in past events. Even Kapuna is in there with a chance. But I do like, and you can also see Zolo in there. But I do like War Campaign. I think he's been flattered. I think his form, his numbers have all improved while running against these real strong rivals. And I think that's going to bode well for him going to the listed Michael Schaefer.
Well, I'll stick with Horseshoe Indy, and I'm going with race 7, the snack handicap. And my best bet is number 7, Indian Creed at 7-2. This is an interesting field. This is a turf event, but a lot of these horses have never run on the turf or have not run recently. But Indian Creed is coming off a win on the turf. And actually the morning line favorite, I think, is vulnerable here because has never raced on the grass, and trainer is 0 for 32 first time out on the turf. So I'm going to look to number 7 here, who is a Jimmy Creed colt, and last time out got a win for Mike Maker, who's a 21% winner this meet at Horseshoe. Jaime Torres is picking up the mount. Also red hot this meet, has 3 wins, 2 seconds from 10 starts at Horseshoe, and strikes at a 16% rate on the turf. Indian Creed's also an early pace setter, went gate to wire last out, and the third place finisher came back to win next out as well. So I like a lot about this particular horse in this field, with a lot of runners lacking that turf experience. I also took a hard look at number 1 as well as a long shot black, white, and gold at 12-1. And Oscar Performance Gelding, who won 2 back in a state restricted allowance, and I think has a chance here. So I'm going to play an exacta box with that long shot, the 1 and the 7 here. Edgar Morales is picking up the mount as well on the 1. So yeah, I think there's a chance to play against that vulnerable morning line favorite and maybe find a big price in the exacta.
Yeah, I like it. I do think Molly's Town really, is going to be, getting beat at 1-9 odds like he did last time. I thought that was a real negative sign. And, I didn't even think he even threatened second that day. So that's definitely a concern off of that race for the big favorite. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the horses we're fading at a short price. So, James, who do you have?
I'm going to fade at Ellis Park in the Pea Patch Stakes on Saturday. I'm going to fade number 4, Moonlit Lady, at 5-2. And Moonlit Lady is a filly that she's run 4 times. In the 2 races she won, she basically got out to clear early lead and led wire to wire. And in the 2 races she dropped, she got beat double-digit lengths. She folded up pretty readily. And while she did, the real key to this race at Churchill Downs, I thought, was the fact that she got like a length and a half, 2 lengths clear early from the gate, was able to save something for this stretch drive. I don't know if that was the strongest entry level allowance race as well that day sprinting, but I just see a different pace scenario happening in this P patch where there's going to be some other speeds, serious speeds signed on. I look at even Field Glass, who led wire to wire last time and is coming off a lengthy layoff. I would just expect her to be geared towards speed. There's other speed in the field as well. I'm really keen as well on this Kimachis in there, who's shipping in from Gulfstream Park. I think the race is going to set up for a stalker or late runner, so I'm going to fade Moonlit Lady in the P Patch Stakes. Darren, Darren, KK.
I don't know if that's a compliment or should I take offense to that? It's funny, James, that you mentioned Moonlit Lady. That was almost going to be my best bet on the weekend. So I'm glad we're going to go head to head. I'm looking elsewhere for a fade, but I love that we can get a little head to head action there. And I might hold it against you that you called me Darren. But my fade of the weekend.
Apologies.
It's all good. He does have a lot better hair than I do. And a much better avatar, too, because I can only imagine what mine would look like. My fate of the weekend comes back at Horseshoe Indianapolis with Stronghold, who's the 2-1 morning line choice in the Indiana Derby. And sort of the reason why I'm looking to bet against him is just holding that Santa Anita Derby to be sort of the lesser competition in the 3-year-old picture. I do believe that he is finding his friends, so to say, in this race. It's a much better field than he faced in the Kentucky Derby. But horses that ran in the Derby always seem to take more action than need be in their subsequent starts. And so I'm just thinking that the competition that he won the Santa Anita Derby against was going to be even a little bit less than this Indiana Derby field. He ran fine in the Kentucky Derby, but sort of don't think the value could be there when some of the new faces in this race are more apt to take my dollars in the Indiana Derby. So it's a solid race overall, but sort of holding that form above his head, and that's why I'm betting against him on Saturday.
So both of your races for the fade are in our week 3 handicapping contest. I agree with you, Kevin. I'm going to also stand against Stronghold. Ultimately, it went with Dragoon Guard at the 8 for Brad Cox, but was looking at EJ won the Cup as well in that race. Who do you think? Do you have a feeling with who you're going to go with for this race?
Between one of those two horses you just mentioned, I thought Dragoon Guard is an interesting new face. He'll probably take a little bit of action just because of his connections alone. So if I had to pick one of those two, I'd lean towards him and sort of see what the price is going to be come post time in this race. But he would probably take my lean over the other horses in this race.
I definitely think Dragoon Guard has the best chance to win. My main concern with Stronghold is that, even though he eked out that win in the Santa Anita Derby, I think he's going to be like a mile and a 16 type. I think that if the race Indiana Derby was 9 furlongs, I'd be more concerned about him being vulnerable. So it's a kind of thing, though, Kevin, where I'd like to see those stats. You're right. Sometimes these horses come back out of the Derby and they get overbet and don't run to expectations. And, we saw Patrick Freedom here recently in Ohio Derby.
Yeah, exactly. We saw what his performance did. And I don't have the hard data behind it, but just sort of, thinking from a top level down, you see the Kentucky Derby and the past performance of any horse's program, you're going to see that horse take some action just from some casual bettors. So I'm assuming that he'll hold close to this 2-1 morning line.
I'll take it over to my fade, which is going to be number 9, Miss Red. Not confused with the pronunciation, Miss Reed. But our backside correspondent, Abby Huffman, confirmed with Tommy Jury it is pronounced Miss Red. At 7-2, I'm going to fade this horse in the Indiana General Assembly Distaff Handicap, a 1/1/16th mile event on the turf. This is a 5-year-old by Blame who won 2 back at a mile. And I feel like that's her better distance. She's stretching out to 1/1/16th of a mile, or actually ran that distance last out and hasn't been able to get a win beyond a mile since she was able to get up and win by a head at 1 1/8 of a mile in an allowance. I believe it was 4 starts back and facing much tougher competition. I can't speak today, but facing tougher competition here. So I just think with the distance seeming like it's a little bit too far for her, I'm going to look elsewhere. Brad Cox has a new acquisition in this field, the 10 horse, who I think has a chance. Number 3, Stir Crazy at 8-1 also looks like a good bet here. And number 5, Regal Realm, coming off a long layoff, but has Florent Giroux aboard. So I'm looking at those 3 as better chances than number 9, Misread, in this field. All right, well, let's move on to the promos. Darren normally would talk about the promos we have going on this weekend, and we have a lot of them. So we're just going to kind of power through a slide to show you everything we've got going on here. A lot with harness racing. We've got that power hour that we were going to do on Friday. We've got a whole lot. I'm not even going to try to read all these out loud, but
$4,000 at Los Al, $2,500
right.
at Ellis Park. Just free money we're giving away.
Ellis Park Sunday leaderboard. That is a $2,500 prize pool that you can play a chance to win part of that pool on Sunday. So with opening weekend, I definitely wanted to highlight that. But yeah, we've got a whole lot of promos going on this weekend at TwinSpires. So be sure to opt in if you're interested in any of those promos you just saw going across our screen. We'll wrap things up. I also wanted to mention our handicapping contest. I've talked about it a few times, but we have week 3 going on. A few more weeks of this handicapping contest. James, I'm coming for you. I've got to improve. So we'll see what happens this week. But we've got the Pea Patch, we've got the Indiana Derby, and the Belmont Derby as our 3 races this weekend. And Kevin, I'll turn it back over to you. Tell me what you're looking forward to watching this weekend aside from what we've already talked about.
Sorry.
I think I'm losing your audio.
You got me now?
Yes.
Got you now.
Okay. I'm really looking forward to the card at Prairie Meadows. I think it's a very underrated card on Saturday night. And I think in the Cornhusker, Hit Show could really stamp himself as maybe one of the horses to watch in the older horse division. I really like the way that Brad Cox is sort of trying to separate his older horses. We saw this horse win an allowance race here at Churchill Downs, as you're seeing on your screen. And I think we saw over the course of his 3-year-old campaign just a little bit of immaturity. And now he's sort of back. He found that confidence winning this race. And there's so many options throughout the summertime and in the early fall for horses to get ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic. So I like how Brad is sending this horse up to Prairie Meadows, maybe trying to get some more confidence in him before he takes on the serious contenders later on in the year. And really looking forward to seeing what he has to offer. He's looked great in the mornings training up to this start, so I think he could be a player in the older horse division.
I like it. I was looking at Hit Show as well. You've got Red Route 1 as the morning line favorite in this race, but I think Hit Show looks like the better chance as well.
Yeah,
James.
really good comeback from Hit Show, I thought. And I'll just mention, I'm excited to see, this isn't my what else, but as far as Prairie goes, you've got Just a Touch. He's been training well since the Derby didn't work out well for him. So I'm excited to see him come back because I still think he's a talented son of Justify that could potentially get back on track. As far as what I'm looking forward to this weekend, the Belmont and Aqueduct meet wraps up. They got 3 stakes that struggled to draw 5 horses, and then they've got the Belmont Oaks. And this is I think, a terrific race. We're going to get to see number 7, She Feels Pretty. She's the best 3-year-old turf filly in North America. She's going up against a trio of Europeans in there. A nice one for Charlie Appleby and another Group 2 winning or Group 3 winning filly. So glad to see her get some challengers from overseas. Because I liked her comeback in the Hilltop, and I look for her to keep moving forward for Cherie DeVoe. I also want to mention Steve Asmussen, by my count, won 8 2-year-old races at Churchill Downs, and I might have miscounted those. Could have been more, but he's debuted a ton of nice juveniles over the last few months, late in the Keeneland meet, and then all through May and June at Churchill. And he still has plenty to run. And we'll see a pair of them make their first start at Ellis on Saturday. I want to mention in race number 5, number 4, take note of this. It's a mile turf race for 2-year-old fillies. I think it's the first 2-turn turf route I've seen, unless I missed one for the maiden race. And this filly, take note of this, a Ghost Sapper filly for Asmussen, is a half-sister to multiple Grade 1 winning Millionaire Sadler's Joy, another Grade 2 winner up on Woodbine's Stepetta track. So she's got a pedigree. She's well-bred. She costs $550,000. And then in race number 5, Asmussen will debut number 11, Oklahoma Logic. Excuse me. She's a Dark Bay filly by McLean's Music, who wins 15% out with his offspring. And Oklahoma Logic is out of a grade 3 winning sprinter who's a half sister of a multiple grade 2 winning sprinter. So she's bred to run early, has fast works, listed in lines. I thought I'd mention Asmussen's juveniles on this opening Saturday at Ellis Park. What do you have, Ashley?
Well, you kind of talked about it a little bit with Just a Touch. I was going to highlight the two highly touted sophomores that are out of Brad Cox's barn that we saw along the Kentucky Derby and Oaks Trail. So we had Impel along the Oaks Trail, and she's crossing it in the Iowa Oaks and the Indiana Oaks, but I think we're probably going to see her in Indiana. And I think she has a good chance in either race. Kind of looks like she's a whole step above the field in both. So either way she goes. But Just a Touch, Kevin kind of mentioned this. A lot of Derby runners, their first start back off of their Derby start, they taken all this money. And Just a Touch, I know, had all of this hype leading up to the Derby, ended up finishing second in the Bluegrass, ran a very good race, but finished second to Sierra Leone, and then was last of 20 in the Derby. He hasn't won since he broke his maiden, 4 starts back. He does just a touch above the rest of the field, but I think Dymatic and Next Level could be interesting late runners in here. So maybe we will see an upset with a Derby runner making their first start back. I think we'll see quite a bit of money come in on Just a Touch, though. And it sounds like you think he'll get the win, James.
Well, I just think he's been training well. I think that's showing in the Derby. I'd heard like some rumblings like that, like the Cox Barn was worried he was a work short for the Derby. And I know that had to be a disappointing effort because, he ran a really good second in the Bluegrass. And I think he's a real promising colt. So I'm optimistic he'll turn things around, but he's got to go do it.
Yeah, he's always been one of those horses, James, that is a great workhorse in the morning. So he's been frustrating, I think, for some people because you see how flashy he is in his training. And he was disappointing, obviously, in the Kentucky Derby. But I think this is a great next step for him to try and gain some of that confidence back because he ran well in the Bluegrass and he was sort of quickly brought along, as we saw, several other horses that, you think of the Steve Asmussen runner last year that's name is coming to mind, maybe starts with a D.
Disarm.
Yeah, we saw. Remember when he was sort of like Steve Asmussen was up front? He said, "I'm racing him into shape to get into the Kentucky Derby." We might have seen a little bit of that with Just a Touch, and hopefully, we're going to see a much more fit Just a Touch come back in this race. And albeit it's a lesser type of competition in this field, and he always works great. So I'd love to see him sort of throw his name at a main player for this 3-year-old division.
I do want to mention real quickly, too, we have quarter horse racing early on the Prairie Meadows card. I tried to play a prank on our producer that I was going with a best bet in race 3, which is a quarter horse race. But I will throw it out there. Rainbow of Diamonds at 9-2 if you're looking for a play. Did you look at any of those races? Do y'all do any quarter horse racing? No.
I'll watch it if it's on, but no, I don't do any handicap.
Yeah, it's not really my wheelhouse, but we'll see. All right, well, that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires jury. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon. Enjoy Ellis Park. And
thank you. Appreciate you having me, and best of luck to everyone this weekend.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. Have a great weekend.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.